Every generation believes their music is better than the younger generations. But we know that music is a powerful art form and a universal language. Regardless of age or background, what is its connection to good brain health as a healing tool? Can it help us express ourselves and connect to one another? Let's explore how we can make intentional music choices to aid in our health and wellness and utilize music as a pathway to resilience.
Julius Sanna hails from East Africa. He was born in Tanzania of Kenyan parent, Kenyan dad, and a Tanzanian mom. He came to the US over 25 years ago, and he grew up in a musical family that has continued that legacy while he's here in the US. He's an ordained minister. He's very passionate about serving others in the community. He has served as a music and worship director in various churches, as a youth pastor, director, and a church planter. For today, he is actually a jazz band director, his own jazz band, the Julius Sanna Groove Band, as well as the Afrofusion band Positively Africa. Julius and I, yes, I'm married to him. We've been married for over 23 years and we live in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, and we have 4 musically gifted children. So, welcome, Mr. Sanna, to the podcast today on musical history. So, do you remember your first experience with music and what music resonates with you as a musician?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity to share anything that enhances and helps people understand how mental health is connected to music. I think it's a beautiful thing. So, thank you for having me. As far as my memories, earliest memories with music, that's an interesting question because my parents were musicians. I pretty much grew up listening to music. I don't remember a world without music. None of us do, but I specifically remember growing up in a family where music was very, very central. So my earliest memories, as far as like jazz, for example, is concerned, is me getting ready for school, dressing up for school, and my dad was playing jazz in his room, and we could hear the music coming through from his room, and it filled the home. And so that's the kind of musical upbringing I had from the earliest days. That and the fact that we had instruments in the house, and everybody, my older brothers, were musicians, and so music was just everywhere.
Okay. So, how has music affected your mind through the years?
Wow, it's in every way. Because of music and growing up really immersed in music, until you asked me that question, I've never really thought about a life outside of what I've experienced. In other words, how would my life be different without music? So that's a very interesting question. But I can look back and see how music has been a source of relaxation. It has been a source of reflection. It's been a source of encouragement and pushing me to look into the future. Music is how I express myself. So some good examples would be like whenever I'm doing something stressful or demanding mentally, I always find music to be very soothing. And not only listening to music, but playing music is also a way for me to release some of that stress. Okay, this is interesting. This is just coming to my mind now. When I was in high school, when we had homework and I had a lot of homework to do, I could not just open the books and start doing my homework. I would have to. I used to play the recorder, the little small flute, and I would play a few tunes, and then I would get in the mood. I would get in the groove of. I would put it aside, and then I was ready to do my homework. It was that important, and that integrated into my life.
Wow, that's quite a vision about music as a kid, music as a grown up, and how it's affected your mind. I do have a question. How do you feel it's affected your maybe your soul and spirituality? Because music also affects that, and our soul and spirit are also connected to our minds. So, has music in your life had any effect on that?
Oh, 100%. Sometimes the deepest spiritual feelings and ideas in my world can only be expressed through music, notes and harmony and melodies. Sometimes it's impossible for me to think of a concept spiritually or my relationship with God outside of music. That's why worship for me is such an important part. I remember when we were younger and we would visit a church. If I was going to be late and miss the worship, I'd rather not go to church. In other words, if I miss the music, then the spirit will not connect. It will be very dry. So, worship is so important with intentionality as well. In other words, going into seeking what music does for me in order for me to be elevated spiritually. Music is like that power and the strength and the wind that lifts me up and puts me in a position of listening in the spiritual realm. So meditation, for example, I do it not during the meditation, but music prepares me for meditation. And I know a lot of people like to listen to maybe soft music during the meditation process, but I use music as a way to prepare me for that, so that during the meditation there's complete silence, because music took me to a place where I am a fertile ground for spiritual interaction with God.
Okay. So, looking at the genres of music and how music changes through generations, what do you think about the modern music that the younger people are listening to now, and what the kids are listening to right now?
Okay, so as you know, we have kids who are musicians, and I have learned something. Okay, so I used to think that the younger people listen to a whole different set of musical genres, and it is true, music will change with every generation, but music is the language of the generation. So I am not qualified, because I'm outside of that generation, to comment or to say one thing or another in regards to how they are absorbing their and interacting with their music. In other words, I could sit and say, man, you need to listen to some music from the 70s. Man, that was when it was happening, man. Or I would say worship music from the 90s was how that was so special. But when I really sit down and think about it, I find that this generation has a different way of expressing and interacting with music. One of the things that people like to say about music today is that it's not deep enough, that it is very shallow, that it's very just a few words being repeated over and over again. And that might be true, but to the mind of the 18-year-old, 17-year-old, they're interacting with it in a very unique way, different from how I interacted with music of my generation. So I appreciate them and what they're doing with their music and how they're interacting with it.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been really fun listening to your experiences with music, talking about the generations, and also how music has affected your own growth, your mind, your spirit, and your soul. So thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to our guest, Julius Sanna, for such insightful information. And next we have Jordan Sanna. Jordan is a high school freshman at Dreyfus School of the Arts and is majoring in technical theater. He has been involved in various theater productions since middle school. He is also a musician who sings, plays the piano, saxophone, and produces music. He has performed for city events, church events, private concerts, and this summer, he sang with his parents' band for a conference attended by 10,000 young people in Tampa, Florida. He is a passionate gamer who builds his own computers and a skateboarder. He has three siblings and enjoys hanging out with Sachi, the family dog, and his friends. He wants to pursue a career in music in the future. Welcome, Jordan. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. I'm just going to jump right in. What kind of music do you like, and how does music make you feel?
Okay, well, I'd say like the main niche slash genre of music I would listen to would be more of rap and hip hop, but I do like to more of express myself and listen to other genres such as like rock and like indie and more R&B, reggae, all sorts of. I'm sort of all over the place with music all the time.
Cool, kind of eclectic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, when do you find yourself listening to music the most?
Probably driving to school on the school bus and like just walking around in school during class change. That's mostly when I'm listening to music and skateboarding outside.
Do you feel any type of emotional changes or changes in your mood when you listen to music?
It definitely helps me feel a lot like more immersed and just kind of like more like it just makes me feel a lot better about myself and a lot better about more so things, and I'm not too worried about a lot of other things that are going on in the world. Like let's say like I had a day where something bad happened. I'll go and walk my dog or skateboard while listening to music, and it really makes everything feel a lot better and a lot more simple.
Yeah, nice. Uplifting. So I have a different question. Your father talked about how music during his generation impacted him. How do you see music of your generation being the same or different from the music that your parents experienced, or music from the past?
Well, I'd say for me and my brother, because my brother is the one who really got me started on like this whole music production thing. The music that we've listened to in our generation is definitely, I'd say, probably have a stronger impact than even my mom and dad's generation. These kids, it's like an artist like who they really like, and they'll go to concerts, they go crazy. And like when they see an artist dropping new music and doing all sorts of new things and just posting snippets on like social media and stuff, they'll start to speculate and make all kind of crazy comments. It's kind of funny, but it's like really dedication from the fans to the artists.
So it sounds like the music of your generation has a bit more immersion and interaction with fans and the artist, whereas music of the past was really more of like just expression and people enjoying it. But we live in an information age and a social age, and it sounds like you guys have interaction with the artists that you like to listen to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Last question. How does it feel being a part of such a musical family, and what are some of your aspirations for the future?
It's actually amazing. I'm so glad that I've actually been able to like I'm so glad that God brought me into this family and I wasn't born somewhere else, cuz it's really a gift being able to play such instruments, cuz I know there's a lot of kids out there and a lot of people who are even probably older than me that can't even like play some instruments as well as I can at my age. And I'm thankful that I have so many gifts and so many talents that I've been blessed by from God. So, and my parents obviously teach me a bunch of things as a kid, and my brother influencing me and all sorts of stuff like that. So I'm very thankful.
Awesome. Well, I'm thankful and grateful to have had this time with you today. And I look forward to what's to come in your future. I look forward to following you. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Our next guest is Dr. Bama Lutes Deal. She's a musicologist, and she's going to give us some cultural context in the voice of a music analyst. She was raised by military parents, and as a very young child, music was a source of joy and comfort and healing. She sang songs at home every day. She sang in the car, she sang at church, and she sang in the classrooms, birthdays, and special occasions. Throughout her career, music has opened doors for her to become a strong foundation and build new relationships. She's been an orchestral performer, a university teacher, a musicologist, and a nonprofit administrator. But her work now is as an arts consultant with Palm Health Foundation, and she's working to convene the Palm Beach County NeuroArts Collaborative. Local researchers, educators, healthcare providers, and wellness practitioners, artists, and art organizations alike are community champions who are building the field of neuroarts, who will guide its practices to advance health and well being. So let's welcome Dr. Bama Lutes Deal and talk about neuroarts. Welcome, Dr.
Hi, Kenya. It's Bama, please. It's very nice to be with you today.
Okay. Thank you. And feel free to call me Kenya as well. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you today, Bama. Can you tell us a story about how you got your start as a musicologist?
Well, it's funny because the music part you just mentioned was early in my life. That evolved into the kinds of channels that you do in school, like band and orchestra and choir or whatever school activities. And from there, I decided I had to have a career, and there was university, and I ended up studying music, but as a performer. And I was here in Palm Beach County playing what we call the I-95 Orchestra, and I was broadcasting on WXEL FM, which was a radio station locally. And I found that the history questions, when was this written? Who wrote it? Why is it important? What's significant about it? Those are the things I didn't know. And out of that experience, after being responsible to publicly broadcast music that I didn't know the story of, and crash reading all the liner notes, I decided I needed to go back to school and really study hard. So I went back to Florida State University in my 30s. I already had two children by then, and I continued to perform, but I got interested in kind of the music history world, diving deep like a history detective into what did his handwriting look like, and how often was that his practice, and who paid the bills, and how was this performed. I got really, really curious about the people in the past and about the role that music took. It's a lot like, if you look in our world today and you consider what is the role of music, music can be advocacy, music can be bringing people together, music can be helping people relax and unwind. And so a musicologist looks at kind of the hows. How does music work? And what are the component parts? And in a way, that's like perfect for what I'm doing right now with the NeuroArts Collaborative.
With the NeuroArts Collaborative, correct. Oh my goodness. That sounds like almost like a musical archaeologist, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's a great way to put it. Being an archaeologist, I had in my head as a kid too. So I guess I always had this
Okay.
curious little mind.
You're getting to do everything that you always wanted to do. And that's a really amazing background, really amazing pathway to discover the art of music. Can you tell us a little bit about what we know now about music and its impact on the brain? What do we now know about music and its impact on the brain?
We know a lot. So I can tell you that we have better tools now than we've ever had for understanding how our brains work. And then when researchers have started to look at how our brains work on music, they've, for the last 30, 40 years, been asking these questions and cultivating the field of music therapy, which is how to use music not just for an aesthetic, enjoyable, pleasurable experience or self expression, but to use it for reasons that go beyond the music itself, to help people that have had a brain injury, for example, learn how to walk again. Music can help them do that. And most recently, EEGs and functional MRIs have helped us to see exactly which parts of the brain activate from musical listening, and specific to music, not just hearing things, but specific to the predictability of music, which has rhythm and melody. Sorry, I have a little dog next to me. He just shook. That's all that was. Anyway, there's these elements of music, and we process all of the elements. When we hear rhythm, we hear the drums, or we hear the beat. When we hear the sound of the instruments, and we're able to discern in our brain which instrument that is or what voice type that is, all of that is a processor in our mind working really hard, helping us make sense of the music. That's the same way we make language. We hear sounds and we make sense of word order, and we anticipate the word that's going to follow. And we do all that in the same part of the brain, which is also where we keep our memories. And I know you all have music that you remember from weddings and special occasions. And, that's my happy playlist. We all use that, but we're not always aware of it. And neuroscientists are now really digging into ways that can be applied, as music therapists have been doing for, like I said, 3 or 4 decades now. They're looking at it more finely with the tools that they have and the technology that's available that lets us see inside of our brains and really measure the impact and ask very interesting questions.
Wow, it's been amazing listening to you describe the journey. As Kenya said, kind of an archaeologist for music. So, in this particular episode, we talked to Julius, who is a band director and also worked with playing music for patients who are in for brain treatment. Pretty much what you're describing through an organization that brings music to those who are in the hospital. And then we talked to a teen, Jordan, who talked about music as a young person and what it means to them. So as I'm listening to you talk about the effect of music, and you mentioned one of the things you mentioned is drumming. I actually do drums, percussions. And I wanted to ask you, with that in mind, what do you believe about music being a healing tool? Because every time we do drumming or attend drum cycles, for example, at Lake Worth Beach, it gets into your soul. You just want to, listen to the music. The waves are coming in. It's a crowd of 200 people, everybody playing whatever instrument they're playing. And it just feels as if something is going on in the soul through that. And so when you mentioned the drumming and how it makes us feel, that's a question that came to mind. What do you think about music as a healing tool?
Well, I believe that it's vibrations that heal us. I think we're vibrational beings,
Mm-hmm.
that our heartbeat is a vibration, that each of our cells, scientists know this, they have their own speed that they vibrate at. We can look at the molecular level and we can see that that's true. So when you dig into the physics and the physical properties of sound itself, those are vibrations. And I can only say, and this is an opinion, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I can say that as a musician who's spent a lifetime thinking about why it sounds so good to sing just like that next to that note, that's vibrational. You get into a sweet spot where the two notes together sound so pure and beautiful. That's very, very rewarding and healing. When you speak specifically about drumming, rhythm pulls us together. We all end up sharing and anticipating the next beat and the next beat and the next beat. And in between, we get to be ourselves, but we're all
Mm-hmm.
together with that sequence of when the beat is coming, what the tempo of that beat is. And I think that's healing. I think it shows us that we're all connected, just like we all have beating hearts. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I look at it. And when I look back on my life and I think of the times that I had moments like you just described, when a performance in an orchestra, for example, you might have 80 or 90 people all together, or at a football field, being in a band on a football field for a game, something really big. All of that sound is unified.
Mm-hmm.
That's all these people really listening to each other, really tuned in cooperative collaboration. And so to me, that's healing. And I think in today's world, we get a lot of randomness that's not organized, that's coming at us strangely, and we're not sure what's happening next. So we get out of tune ourselves and out of rhythm a little bit with life, and we have to reset. That's how I think it can heal. Just go back and listen to some music until you feel better.
I love that. So you're kind of moving on to the next one that I was going to ask you. What do you think about helping us, in general, everybody, be able to choose music that enhances our health and wellness? As you said, it's a vibration, it's healing. There's all this talk about the God frequency in music, right? How would you advise us, ourselves, our listeners, about choosing music that will enhance our health and our wellness?
I think that, first of all, if you love the music and it makes you happy, go with that. Second of all, yes, there's a lot of talking about the God frequency, but there's also science. And I think that when we can't tell whether it's hype or media or what it might be, that we can say, where is the evidence of this, that vibration or that particular frequency is going to heal anything? There are old practices, however. There are ancient practices all across every culture. And I believe that those are what I would rely on. I would turn to the ancestors myself, because I think that singing bowls and drumming ciphers and dance, music and dance and trance all go together to reset our brains. I mean, think about a trance. That's a condition of your mind, and music can help trigger that. And that can be, if you will, an example of music therapy or NeuroArts in action.
What do you think about the sound bath? I know there are places now that do the sound bath, and I'm curious, knowing your expertise and your experience. How does that? Do you know how that works?
I don't, so I don't have anything to offer.
Okay.
um, I would imagine the concept is to come into a beautiful space.
Yeah.
And I know there's been experiments done with silence that there's a room in the United States that is absolutely silent and devoid of sound, and your brain can handle it for about 4 minutes. And that's it. People go nuts in there. So, the absence of sound is also, it's a stimulus deprivation. A sound bath sounds like a really lovely experience, but I don't know much about the particulars to comment on, studies or any other bodies of work. The thing about NeuroArts is that it's the neuroscience paired with the aesthetic music expression or art expression, and the studies that have been done that show us the way toward healing. So your question's a really good one. And I know there's some studies that talk about certain intervals of a third or a sixth in certain scales of music. Indian ragas have other theories about that in the far west. There's a lot of, like I said, ancient traditions that developed these concepts, and I'd love to see them tested.
Yeah.
I think that would be really valuable.
Wow. Thank you so much. Kenya, I know you're a lover of music. What are some of the things going through your mind as you're hearing this awesome stuff from Dr. Bama?
Well, when I'm listening to Bama talk, I'm still thinking of all the things that she shared, but through that archaeological lens, where music really does help us discover new things about ourselves. Music helps us discover new things about others and the world around us. And so, knowing that it has healing properties, sometimes we feel like because something makes us feel an emotion that there may be a little mystery or myth to it, but hearing her conversation today has really helped me know that there's science behind those emotional connections, and that the tool that music is really meant for healing and in addition to entertainment, but it's also a healing tool and a healing mechanism. And I'm just really excited and happy that she was able to join us today and share that information with us and our listeners.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Dr. Bama Lutes Deal, Bama, as you were asking us to call you, thank you so much for being with us today and for the amazing way in which you've transported us to another world as we listen to you talk about music and give us all this archaeological history. And thank you so much for touching on culture and time by going to the ancient, going back to the ancient times, to the present time, and affirming for us about the effect of music on the brain and the soul, and just encouraging us to listen to what makes us feel good and to listen to what heals us. We can't wait. I can't wait to come and see you at work and see the amazing work that you're doing with the Palm Beach NeuroArts Collaborative. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure to meet you both.